Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing an updated version of my Ancient Gears. Now this is the original, besides Cyber Dragons, OTK based deck. Probably one of the biggest boss monsters you can summon in the entire game, besides a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon or a 5-headed dragon. But this is probably the most overpowered monster that you can summon in the entire game, if you can get it out correctly. So, really awesome deck guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell in there so you can become a part of the notification squad, and let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Ancient Gear Golem. You need 2 copies of Ancient Gear Golem. I wish I had another ultra rare of this. But basically its effect is that when it declares an attack, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps until the end of the damage step. So it protects itself against mirror forces and stuff like that. Also it inflicts piercing damage, which is really awesome. But it cannot be special summoned at all. But that's not a big deal because we have ways around that. Because there's certain cards in this deck that have the ability to special summon Ancient Gear Golem instead of and you just ignore the summoning conditions. So then I play 1 copy of Ancient Gear Ultimate Pound. I kind of play this here for its polymerization effect, that if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can add a polymerization from your deck to your hand. If you do, add 1 other Ancient Gear monster from your graveyard to your hand. But it still does inflict piercing damage, and it can attack up to twice per turn. If it attacks a defense position monster, inflicts piercing damage up to twice per turn when attacking monster destroyed a monster by battle. You can discard a machine, and this card can attack again in a row. It can be an OTK maker on its own, but I think 1 of it is plenty. But it cannot be special summoned as well. But it counts as Ancient Gear Golem, which is fine. Then I play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. The reason I play 3 copies of this is because you can special summon it off of Gear Town and a couple of other means as well throughout the deck. I think 3 is the optimal number. Some people play 2. I think 3 is better. It can clog just a little bit at 3, but I still like it at 3. It's just a really good card. If it attacks, it destroys 1 spell or trap on the field. So it's just, I love Ancient Gear Reactor Dragon. 3 copies of Ancient Gear Wyvern. Ancient Gear Wyvern is essentially the Stratos of the deck. When it's normal summoned, you can add an Ancient Gear card from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot set cards for the rest of the turn. That's not a big deal because we only have 1 card in the entire deck that we're going to set at all. And all Ancient Gear monsters, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, all Ancient Gear monsters share the effect of your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects until the end of the damage step. Usually they have the ability of when they declare an attack, the opponent's monster cannot, or the opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to their battle. Usually, it depends varying Ancient Gear to Ancient Gear. The next, which I think is the best Ancient Gear in the whole deck, is 2 copies of Ancient Gear Frame. It has one of the most broken effects of them all. You can discard 1 card to add 1 Ancient Gear Golem or spell or trap that specifically lists Ancient Gear Golem in its text from your deck to your hand, and then you can only use the effect of him once per turn. Your opponent can activate cards in respect, or spell or trap cards in the response to this card's attack. Then also, if it leaves the field for an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 3 Ancient Gear Golems and or Ancient Gear Ultimate Pounds from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions. So if your opponent has the audacity, if you will, to hit your Ancient Gear Frame with like a Ghost Ogre or something, in response to your search, then you're going to summon out as many Ancient Gear Golems as you can from your hand, which is amazing because it can summon up to 3 of them and OTK your opponent really easily. The next card I play is 3 copies of Ancient Gear Hunting Hound. Hunting Hound's effect is if it's normal summoned, you can inflict 600 points of damage to your opponent, which is kind of irrelevant. But its other effect is that you can fusion summon once per turn 1 Ancient Gear monster from your extra deck using materials from your hand or field, including itself, which is really nice. But it doesn't have to be itself. So it's just really nice to be able to use this as material to fusion summon stuff. I wish they would give us the other 2 Ancient Gears, the Chimera and the one that had the 2-headed one and the 3-headed one that was the Hunting Hound fusion monsters. I really wish they'd print those. I haven't yet, but maybe they will in the future. Then I play 2 copies of Ancient Gear Gadget. Basically, when it's normal or special summon, you can declare either monster spell and traps, and for the rest of the turn, it protects your monsters from battle. Your opponent cannot activate that particular type until the end of the damage step for the rest of the turn, which is nice. I really like that ability. It has another effect about gadgets, but that's not important with this particular build. And then I only play 1 copy of Ancient Gear Box. I feel like it's kind of a brick if you draw it. No pun intended. If this card is added to your hand from your deck, except by drawing it, you can add an Earth Machine monster from your deck with 500 or less attack and defense. That actually searches your gear frame. It searches your ancient gear gadget. So that's kind of why I only play one copy of it, because if you're gonna search it with Wyvern, you can add this and then add frame, or you can add this and then add box. So basically your Wyvern gives you 2 searches off of that one summon, and I only played it 1 because I don't want to draw it. But that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So we only play 1 trap in the deck as well. So the spells are really where we take up the majority of our room here. So for the spells, we're going to play 1 copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn's here just to kind of, bring back anything that we need to. I'm playing 2 copies of Twin Twister because we just hate back row in this deck, and it's a prevalent thing. If you're playing against the deck that doesn't have a lot of back row, be sure to play Called by the Grave. I don't main this in this deck. I side it because sometimes I don't play against things that I need it that quickly. I'll just summon in a big monster and swing at my opponent in his game anyways. So I don't play them, or hand traps in this deck for that matter. 2 copies of Limiter Removal. Limiter Removal just makes us win more. That's pretty much all it is. Terraformings to add our Ancient Gear or Gear Town from our deck to our hand. And for the fusion spells, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Overload Fusion. It makes it really easy to go into Chaos Giant later in the game. I think 2 copies is optimal because it can help us go into him very, very easily, and I want to see it. So that's why I played 2. 2 copies of Ancient Gear Fusion. This is actually searchable by Ancient Gear Frame because it's specifically lists Ancient Gear Golem in the card text. You can fusion summon 1 Ancient Gear Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as materials. And if you use Ancient Gear Golem or Ancient Gear Golem Ultimate Pound, you control as fusion material. You can also use monsters from your deck as materials also. So if you can get an Ancient Gear Golem on the field, you can actually use materials from your deck as well, which is really, really, really good. I really like that ability because it can give you so many pluses, and it can let you go into literally any of your Ancient Gear monsters. Then I played 2 copies of Power Bond as well. If you wanted to, you could feasibly drop an Overload Fusion for a third Power Bond, because Power Bond is going to win you more games than the Overload Fusion. But it's one of those things, it's kind of your choice. I like the Overload Fusion because it has more recovery ability to it, and that's why I play the Overload Fusions over the Power Bond, the third Power Bond. But that's ultimately up to you guys. Then I play 3 copies of Ancient Gear Catapult. While you control no monsters, you can target 1 face-up card on the field and destroy it. And if you do, special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. Right there is how you special summon your Ancient Gear Golem onto the field. If you can get this and then pop like Gear Town on the field, it can give you the ability to summon like Reactor Dragon and a Ancient Gear Golem. Then use Fusion to summon any Ancient Gear monster you want. Which is nice. And then it also has the ability that you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 1 face-up card you control and destroy it. And if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear token from your, just special summon an Ancient Gear token with 0/0. That's a nice ability. That's a very nice added ability to get us some added value out of this card. So I think 3 copies is definitely the optimal number. Then we play 3 copies of Gear Town. Gear Town's ability is that you can normal summon a gear monster for 1 less tribute, which is very, very, very good of an ability to have, so we can just get our Ancient Gear monsters out faster. You're usually not going to use that all that often, of being able to just tribute 1 monster, summon Ancient Gear Golem, but it's there. Sometimes I'll do it with Reactor Dragon, but it's rare that I do that. And both players, when this card is destroyed, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or grave, which is really nice too. And then for the final card I play for the spells is 3 copies of Ancient Gear Fortress. Sometimes people play this as a 2 of. I like it as a 3 of because during the turn they were normal or special summon. Your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control with card effects. This also has the ability that if this card is destroyed in the spell or trap card zone, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or grave. And also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Ancient Gear monsters. I can see why it's a 2 of. I mean, if I was going to play Call by the Grave in this deck, I'd probably drop Gear Fortress and then maybe an Overload Fusion at tops. That's probably what I would drop. But, I mean, other than that, it's just a really good deck. Or maybe the Twin Twisters if you want to go that route. But I opted to play the Twin Twisters over that. But that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to play 1 copy of Ancient Gear Reborn. This is the only trap that I need in this deck. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can target an Ancient Gear monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And if you do, gain 200 attack, and you can only control 1 of these. The cool thing is even if this card leaves the field, that monster stays on the field, which is really nice. It's not like Call of the Haunted, it just does what it needs to do. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, I'm going to be playing... The extra deck is very loose. I'll tell you the necessary cards, and I'll tell you the cards that can be changed out. I think you need 2 copies of Ancient Gear Chaos Giant. Basically, its effect is that it's unaffected by all their card effects, and your opponent cannot target this... monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase, and this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each, and if it attacks, inflicts piercing damage. It's a 45 beater that is immune to just about everything in the entire game. It's immune to spell and trap effects, and they can't activate their monster effects during the battle phase. Like, it's arguably better than Ultimate Falcon. Like, it's probably the best fusion monster in the game. Then I play 2 copies of Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Basically, it inflicts piercing damage when it battles, and then if it's destroyed, you can special summon Ancient Gear Golem from your graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. It's a 44 beater, and it becomes 88 if you use Power Bond, which is amazing. 1 copy of Megaton Golem. Megaton Golem's effect is if it attacks, your opponent cannot activate spell and traps until the end of the damage step. And then, if this card was fusion summoned using 2 or more Ancient Gear Golems or Ultimate Pounds as material, it can attack that many times during the battle phase. And if it's destroyed or leaves the field in its owner's control, you can special summon Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. That's why I play 2 of those, is because sometimes I'll fusion summon one, and then sometimes I'll summon it off of this, but I want that extra utility of having them. This is mandatory, you need these. Same thing with Howitzer. Howitzer is really good in the deck as well. Just if you have 2 Ancient Gear monsters and like a Power Bond or something, you can use this. It's unaffected by other cards' effects, and during your main phase, you can inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. And if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster in your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So it just bypasses the Ancient Gear Golem clause and just instantly puts it on board. True King of All Calamities is a really good card because you can just summon it off of 2 what's it called? Reactor Dragons. You summon it off 2 Reactor Dragons. Hope Harboring, I summon it off 2 Ancient Gear Golems. It's very rare that I actually summon this, but it's here. Geargia X or Gearganta X is here because you can search any machine monster and it helps out that way. Baguska is nice because if you get into if your back is against the wall and you need to summon Baguska, it's there. Tornado Dragon's here if I need to pop more back row than Twin Twister will allow, and 2 copies of Mrs. Radiant. What you don't need is Tornado Dragon, Baguska, and Hope Harboring. The rest of it's pretty much mandatory, but those are kind of like your interchangeable slots, in my opinion. But other than that, guys, that's the deck profile. I hope you enjoy this one. I really enjoyed taking this one. This deck is a lot of fun. It's a really, really OTK-based deck. That's all it does is OTK over and over and over again. But a really fun deck overall. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.